of Eden would be it, wouldn't it?
It would
Don't
be.
eat it.
It's so good, it's tasty.
That's not how you consume books.
Boom.
Shake, shake, shake the room.
No.
No tick-ticks.
No tick-ticks. Hi, I'm Nell.
And I'm Scott.
And we're Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. And we're here with a tag video.
We've actually been tagged in like almost half a dozen tag videos in the last fortnight.
It's because we're famous.
We're famous.
Yeah.
Really. I'm overwhelmed. Like we've hardly ever been tagged in a tag video. I think we got tagged in once. One of them.
And now all of a sudden it's raining tags. It's because you've all got nothing better to do with your time.
It's raining tags.
Don't sing. They'll all leave.
Alright, this is from Janelle at Too Fond of Books.
It's an original tag, so we got tagged in the first video, which is exciting.
And
it's the buried treasure tag.
she's clearly one of those book lovers that collects books, and this is such a good tag for her to do because
she's got lots of treasure. Will we get into it? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Number 1, a book that has been on your shelf a long time but you've never talked about on your channel.
We have this big pile of books here to select from.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Dun dun dun. Oh, you gonna go first?
No, you go first.
Well, I have got A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. You're still getting your book out. We should have sorted this first.
Just keep going.
I think you probably know what this is. Stephen Hawking discusses like physics and explains how the universe works. He does it in a way that everybody can understand. I read this book while I was studying physics at university.
Because that's the kind of nerd I married.
Yes. It's super interesting if you're interested in science. I know there's a lot of people, a lot of booktubers out there that actually started with a science background and moved over into reading books, or still...
Yeah, a bit of both.
Bit of both. But this is really great if you've just got a passing interest in science and you want to, in physics rather, and you want to learn how it works.
Mine is it's actually a signed first edition of Tim Winton's The Turning. I was a huge Tim Winton fan, sort of early university, and I think this was released when I was in second year maybe. And I remember going to get it signed and he told me to lay off the red cordial because he's polite.
Were you drunk?
No, I was hyper, I was excited. And he basically told me to settle down. What a grumpy old douche. But it's a collection of short stories written by a man who was a bit of a douche, but that writes lovely, lovely, lovely prose. So that's been on my shelf for ages. But Tim Winton and I...
Clearly no longer get along after the red cordial insult.
No, I still really enjoy his prose, but I think I've just got a bigger idea of what a novel should be now. And endings are not really his best. I don't know, like, I still like it. He's just not my favourite anymore.
Well, we'll discuss Cloud Street in another video.
Yes, we will. Question number 2. A book with a cover so awful it's actually awesome.
Oh, I have got... This is classic horrible.
Yours is better than mine.
This is classic horrible. This is a book, I think I got this book when I was 14 or 15. I was captain of the school cross-country team, and it was a book about running. And I think 4 kids solve some sort of murder, not murder, but like some sort of mystery. And what is really cool about this is only to appeal to people of a certain age. Check that out.
Yeah.
Dewey Decimal.
Mine is an excellent cover on a self-help book, which I did not buy myself. It's called A Breakup Because It's Broken. Quality reading.
Why would you ever have the need to buy that for somebody?
I was gifted it for my birthday after quite a painful breakup by my mother.
That was a really thoughtful and sensitive gift.
She also gave me a diet book. It was just not a good year for gifts that year. Number 3, a book you love that you wish everyone would read. Ha!
Oh.
East of Eden, which I think Scott feels like he wishes he had on as his answer to.
No, I have a better book than East of Eden.
You do not. It's not possible.
But I think if we were just going to pick one book, the two of us, East of Eden would be it, wouldn't it?
It would
Don't
be.
eat it.
It's so good, it's tasty.
That's not how you consume books.
I loved East of Eden, and I will, it's creeping up my priorities list for a reread, I think. I've got some nostalgia for it. I know that the first time I read it was, I'm going with 16 years ago.
It's my favourite Steinbeck, and Steinbeck is good.
Yes, he did, and this is just epically awesome. What's yours? I haven't read it yet, so I don't know.
Well, I'm pulling out my all-time favourites. That is The Count of Monte Cristo. It's got the words Vintage Dumas on it. Let me just put it down because it's heavy. Brenny, no digging. That's carpet. Don't dig the carpet, you knob.
The dog's trying to bury food inside.
Anyway, so the Count of Monte Cristo, all-time classic book. I feel like every time I watch a review for it, I'm like, oh no, you didn't get it. The best bit was, and then I don't want to say that out loud because it spoils it. And I realise why they don't say it in the review. But I think it is, Dumas got this reputation for being like a high adventure, like low intelligence book writer, and I think that if you think that after you read The Count of Monte Cristo, then reread it again, you're wrong.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Anyway, what's next?
A well-known author's underappreciated work. We've been talking about this bit on our channel lately. The Mad Adam series from Margaret Atwood. Oryx and Crake is the first one. I think Margaret Atwood is pretty amazing, and we're all raving about A Handmaid's Tale, which was a good book, but...
Oryx and Crake is better.
I agree. I also think that generally her whole catalogue, what I've read so far, is all amazing, and it's almost a matter of taste as to which book is your favourite. But I loved this, and I also loved The Blind Assassin, pretty high on my list.
I think it's got more layers than any other Atwood book I've read.
Have you read Blind Assassin yet?
No.
Well, talk to me after that.
Alright. I was a bit loath to pick this because this author is disgracing herself with her opinions of late. But nonetheless, I think everybody will acknowledge that J.K. Rowling is an excellent writer, and The Casual Vacancy is an amazing book.
I did enjoy it. It's a pity she's a TERF.
It is a fat-phobic TERF who doesn't like Jews, yes.
Yeah, these are things are problems, but
it's so
still
weird.
a good book.
She's so empathetic towards poor people, and you know, I think there's something about being empathetic towards people and something about being empathetic towards yourself and people in the situations you were in, and I think J.K. Rowling's was poor, she's empathetic towards poor people. But nonetheless, Casual Vacancy, great. I wonder if J.K. Rowling was ever drug addicted because she's very empathetic towards the drug addiction.
I think if you've been truly poor and lived in the kind of environment of the truly poor, it's very difficult to exist in that space without understanding drug addiction in a more nuanced way than television would have us believe it occurs. Druggies don't equal bad. Druggies equal people.
Yeah.
And I think that anyone who's been truly poor for a long enough amount of time has been confronted by that.
But I think this is her only adult book, and it's much better than Wizards at High School and
It's certainly more
Detectives.
interesting to me as an adult.
Yeah. So that I think that's her best book.
Okay, next prompt is the oldest edition of a book on your shelves. We're sharing an answer for this because we share a house.
Yes, this is the Modern Reference Illustrated Encyclopedia, printed in 1939.
It just looks like a brown blob.
It does, and it is. And look, we can see the picture of a camel on that page. Can you? No, I can't get that in focus because I don't really understand how the camera works. Also, there's a picture of a drum on that page. This was my grandmother's, and she passed away 2 years ago. 1 year ago. Oh, time, I don't know. She passed away recently, and when we were cleaning out her stuff,
We got some cool books.
we got some old books because nobody wanted to throw her stuff out, but nobody wanted them, so we took the old books.
The author on your shelves that you've never heard anyone else talk about.
Oh.
I found this really hard because I think that there's probably a couple of authors on my shelves that are lesser known, but I was trying to think about ones that I really love as opposed to ones that are like one-off trash. E.L. Doctorow is actually one of my favourites, but I don't think I've heard anything about him on BookTube yet. So we'll explore that later. This one is actually still on my TBR. This is The March. So we'll talk about E.L. Doctorow when I read that.
And just a general thing, if you are a booktuber and you do have a E.L. Doctorow video up, tell us.
Oh my
Don't
God,
put the
tell
link
us.
in because that turns up as spam, but
tell
us.
because I'll watch the shit out of that.
Because that'll be interesting. Well, I couldn't decide. I have two absolute nerdies for this answer because I am a nerd. Firstly,
Yes.
Britain BC by Francis Pryor. If anybody ever watched, it's a UK show, it's hosted by Tony Robinson, who is better known as Baldrick from Blackadder. Time Team, if anybody's ever seen Time Team.
Yeah.
One of the archaeologists that works on Time Team is Francis Pryor. So you see him digging holes with a shovel and telling you stuff that you don't know. And he wrote a book about Britain in BC, and it's illustrated. It's got, let's see if I can find something interesting that there's a photo of in there or something.
Oh, pigs.
Pigs, yeah, he's talking about like Saxon houses and stuff there and farming and stuff. Quite an interesting little read. And let's get really nerdy. I've already mentioned one physicist in this. That is Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate Richard Feynman. That's and he is one of the fathers of quantum mechanics.
Six Easy Pieces is actually mine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I just assumed it was mine because I knew what it was.
But I am also a massive nerd. But
Have you read it?
yeah, I have.
Really?
Yes. That's why you love me.
That and your random chewing on books.
Okay. So, a book you love from your shelves that you haven't read in over 5 years. For me, this is Perfume. Perfume, the Story of a Murderer. This is amazing. It's olfactory description of France is
How did
unusual.
you say that country again?
France.
Sorry again.
France. It's France.
France. The Tour de France.
Is just like as a person who reads a lot, seeing the world or hearing the world described through a usually neglected sense in such a detailed fashion was very interesting in and of itself. But it's also got a thrilling plot and really gripping central character and a crowd scene at the end that is eye-opening. It's just a good book.
It is. Look, our piles are getting small. We're getting to the
They
end of
are.
this tag. This actually may be your copy of the
Yes,
book
it's
as
also
well.
mine.
Life of Galileo. I studied Bertolt Brecht in year 12, maybe year 11, year 11 and year 12, probably year 12 actually. I was never a good English student. I never really understood what the hell we were meant to be doing with this literary analysis stuff. Which is weird because I really get it now. It really makes sense to me now. But at the time I didn't get it. And I was a strong physics student. I was a strong maths student. And suddenly something came up that I was super familiar with. I was confident with, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it so much. And I was good at English for a term, and then I wasn't.
Did you get a better grade on?
I don't remember. I kind of actually remember getting the same grade, which was a C. No
A
matter.
solid C is a solid C.
I'd like work all night. Probably one of my problems there.
Yeah. Although.
I'd work all night. I'd work my bum off. I'd get it proofread and checked, and it was a C. I'd like pull it out of my ass.
And it was a C.
And it was a C. Is that a term that is like
International?
I hope it's international. Is that like, did I just say I defecated on booktube, or did
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like the
let us
slang.
know. Pull it out of my ass is not a translation saying.
Oh, I did it half-assed. That's got to translate.
I don't know.
Maybe that one doesn't translate.
We'll see. They'll tell us.
Somebody will. What's next?
A book you remember from your childhood. For me, this is Emily of New Moon. I read these when I was a kid, like 10-ish, I think. By Ellen Montgomery, who wrote the Anne of Green Gables series. I think Emily is a little bit younger than Anne of Green Gables. I'm not really sure if it was aimed at the same crowd, but it was similar-ish, full of angst. I loved this and the books in this series. So, the Emily novels. That was my answer for that one.
Well, this is mine. You can't tell, they're just red blobs, right? I thought this was going to be our oldest books in the house. These are very early editions of the Famous Five books. My auntie Jill got me these books for Christmas one year. She clearly picked them up at a garage sale. They were second hand, and I got about 10 or 15 Famous Five books. Quite an early edition. And in the front cover they have a little letter, a little advertising telling you to join the Famous Five Club.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's an address in London you can write to join the Famous Five Club. Maybe we could write there and see if they reply.
I think you should do that.
Yeah, let's do that. I wonder if they have an email address now. But yes.
Number 9 is a book you love from a genre you don't tend to read from. I found this really hard because this house is basically full of books from genres I read.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I found it hard because I'm like, what's a genre I don't read?
Yeah, there's not many. I don't tend to read a lot of romance, and I did have a couple of that sort of thing lying around, but I certainly wouldn't be recommending them. What I did find was this book of Images poetry from first year uni, actually. And I don't actually read a lot of poetry now that I'm out of school, so I think that this is probably all pages folded. It smells like cigarette smoke, so
Ooh.
that's how long it's been. I haven't smoked for 10 years nearly. So that's how long it's been since I flipped through those pages.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I picked images to poetry. What was
Well,
yours?
This is weird. I've picked a non-fiction as my genre, which is weird because I've actually got several non-fiction books that I've talked about today.
Yeah, and it's Great Tales from English History, which I totally think is your niche when it comes to non-fiction. You Anglophile, you.
I really do enjoy English history. Not just English history, but the history of people that my relatives, like my great-great-great-grandparents would have lived with and stuff. And they're all...
White.
They're all white. This is just a super accessible book about... it's just sort of the history of England. This is a chapter on the Venerable Bede, who was an author that I'm just flicking to. This is a chapter on the mysterious death of William Rufus, who was the second King of England after William the Conqueror. Like, it's just a super interesting, teaches you stuff. I really maybe should get into non-fiction.
I suspect that this is a bit of a throwback for you. Like, while it's not a... It's a type of book we have a lot of around the house because I think 15 years ago that's what you used to read.
Yeah, I
But
guess.
it's not so much anymore.
I guess now I don't read non-fiction, but back then I
preferred it.
it was like I got into Wikipedia and I would you know that when you have like 80 tabs open. Oh come on! Surely you everybody does it. You open your internet browser, whatever.
I opened Scott's laptop and it has an aneurysm because it's got 40,000 tabs open and 18 versions of Excel and
yeah,
it hurts me in the soul.
So I don't close anything.
You don't.
But they would all be Wikipedia, and what I would do is I'd be like, oh, I learned about this one thing, it's interesting, I'm going to read about it on Wikipedia, and you click on the link, and then you'd see for something else, but you wouldn't have finished your article, so you'd open it in a new window, and you'd keep going down the article, and then you go on to the next one, and you keep going down.
The endless. We've all done this on YouTube, I'm sure. Add it to the queue, add it to the queue, add it to the queue.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes. The same thing, and then your phone dies, or you turn your TV off. And you're like, damn! I had another 34.
I should have saved that for later. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
The last prompt is tag a booktuber who has buried treasure on their videos.
Well, I thought that somebody who would be really interesting for this tag would be 30 books.
Yes.
30 books. She just has the most different books to anybody else.
The last video I watched of hers, well not the last one, but one of the more recent ones, she I was talking about Ruth Parks, who is who I've read the books that she was talking about. They were in my grandmother's collection. But yeah, just things that I would not necessarily think of, and always something different than the usual booktube crowd. I think that's a really good call.
Yeah. If you're watching this and you want to do it, consider yourself tagged.
You're it.
You're it.
No.
And check out the original video at Too Fond of Books. We'll put a link in the description.
Janelle's awesome. She's
Sure.
got an awesome name.
Yeah.
That's it. We're done.
She's got an awesome name. That's it. We're done.
Ideas are powerful. They're more powerful than not getting tagged.
Than buried treasure.
Ooh, they're more powerful than pirates.
Arrgh.